Straight from the heart. No editing, coming straight off the top. This conversation that I wanted to have is inspired by a few things. Conversation I was having, with family, content that I've come across as well, but also just different things that are on my energy that I want to talk about. I'm grateful in this time. I'm grateful. I try to always stay, uplifted. I try not to ever get too high or too low in this life because, things can change so fast. Sometimes for the better, but a lot of times, for the worse. We experience changes that we didn't anticipate. So I definitely want to be uplifted. It's a beautiful time. I'm in Vegas this summer. It's very hot. I actually just came in from a walk, and that's part of what made me want to turn on the camera, because I was inspired, and it's like that's when I spend my time, kind of reflecting and brainstorming, and I kind of just let my energy flow. I let my thoughts flow. I let the ideas flow as I'm walking, as I'm trying to, get my steps in. Looking to get my steps in. That's, priority, and that's important for me. And that's one of the ways that I, maintain my peace. Like, that's one of the ways that I get away, find some me time, clear my mind, get some sun. And it's quite hot. It's quite hot out there, as you can imagine. But I got my my watermelon juice. Everybody is going through something right now. Everybody. Economy, food prices, depending on where you live, gas prices, crime, is at an all-time high in some places. And it's crime out of desperation, it seems like. It's crime out of desperation. And it kind of makes my heart heavy, but I try not to wear it, But everybody's going through something. And so sometimes it's hard to find the goodness. It's hard to find the good energy. It's hard to find the smiles, and it's hard to find the laughter. But I think now more than ever, it's more important that you're able to, stay in touch with, the things about life that you find joy in and that make you happy. I think it's important to maintain your peace, and it's important to know how to self-soothe, and it's important to be able to kind of detect when, you're feeling low. It's taken me a lot of time, trial and error, mistakes, and just maturity and living life to be connected enough to myself to know, okay, these aren't my feelings or my energy. It's just the environment that I'm in. Nothing's really wrong, but it's just, okay, your energy is low. You kind of need to take a break. Or I'm tapped in enough to know when I'm not feeling well, like, okay, it's time for you to, allow yourself to rest. You kind of got to be able to pinpoint, what's going on so you can stay hopeful and you can stay uplifted. I try not to be a cynic, but I don't necessarily see things about the world changing, anytime in the foreseeable future. So I just think it's important that, within ourselves, that we can stay connected to our peace and to our joy, even when, the money isn't exactly where we want it to be, or, work is taxing your energy and taking a lot out of you. Like, it's important to still be able to find your happiness, which is a part of the reason why I create this content. This is something that makes me happy. This is something that I always seem to find joy in, even when it's challenging me and pushing me to, like, open up more, pushing me to discuss things that I may not necessarily be the most comfortable with. Like, it's important and it's therapeutic for me. Everybody's going through something. It's election time, election year. A lot of people are ramping up for that. Those are discussions that you're starting to hear more and more. Who are you voting for? Why are you voting for them? Are you voting for financial reasons? Are you voting for safety reasons? Are you voting for tax reasons? Like, what's motivating you to vote the way you do? Because really what it boils down to is the lesser of the evils. And I'm not here to have that discussion as far as who we could, should, or would be voting for. That's not my place to do. Everybody has their own point of view about that, and I respect it. But I want to talk about things that we can do to best put ourselves in a position to find, peace in this life and to be stable. Things that we can do so that we can remain hopeful, so that we are always giving ourselves something that we can look forward to. It's important to have things that you can look forward to in this life. I was having a conversation with a family member of mine, and I thought it would be a great idea to bring this to a video. In this day and age, we've seen a lot of people find success and be able to create wealth for themselves without, going to college, without a degree, without, what they used to refer to here in America as a higher education, right? I feel like where I am in life, I'm kind of like the last of a breed where your work ethic allowed you to get your foot in the door, your tenure, just working hard, networking, having a solid reputation, being responsible, being dependable. I feel like this is a season that we're in now where it's like, master's degree, PhD. And even then, that doesn't necessarily guarantee that you're going to end up, making a livable wage in the field of your choosing and actually doing something for work that you find pleasure in and that challenges you but makes you happy. I can honestly say 100% that I enjoy what I do, and I don't take that for granted. That's another one of the reasons why I'm so grateful and I'm so thankful and I'm so uplifted, is because I know how it can be when it really feels like you're on that grind. I've lived that life that, kind of contributed and led me to where I am right now. For those of you who come across this and don't know, I work in aviation, and I'm in corporate in aviation at this time, and it took a lot of work and grind. Again, networking, building my reputation to get me to that point, And there's some people that I work with who, their journey was different about it. I feel like it took me longer to get to that point, but it was worth it because a lot of these people, that I work with, they have degrees in fields that they're not working in. They have a lot of debt. They generated a lot of debt to get those degrees. They feel like they're not able to get ahead. Some of them have had to, move back in with their parents. They aren't driving the cars that they want to drive. They aren't taking the trips that they want to take. They're not living the lives that they want to live. Even though, they're in a field that they enjoy and they feel like they're working, feel like they have a great job. They have like this weight on them because of what it took, the route that they took to get there. And not even in the field that they got degrees in, So specifically the topic came up about, degrees, versus just getting out into the work field. And for children that are coming up now, like, what would be my recommendation to them? Like, what would I advise a young person who was, on the come up right now? And my recommendation, I've always been more of a skill over a degree type person. Again, I'm not downing education. I would never knock education. I would never discourage someone from getting their education if that's what they choose to do. But what I would share with them, had they asked, was to really take into consideration the field that they're studying and the cost and what it's going to take to get that degree and what position is going to put them in, what position getting that degree is going to put them in after they're done. Like, that would be how I would explain that to someone who was asking me, someone who's kind of on the come up, they graduated high school, like they're ready to take that next step in life. They're trying to figure out exactly what it is that they want to do in this world and in the economy that we're in right now. The military is an option for some people. Again, I'm not for it and I'm not against it. That's one of those things where, it depends on the type of individual you are and, what it is that you're looking to do. What are your specific goals? How far do you want to take it and what do you gain from it? But that's also an option for some. But again, that's not something that I am for or against for my own personal reasons. But I'm about getting a trade. I'm always going to be about, getting a trade. And I think that's important. But first and foremost, if you're a younger person, if you're starting out, or even if you're not necessarily a younger person and like you're just looking to get ahead, you got to be willing to make some sacrifices at first, as you build it up. A lot of times we see people's success, right? But we have no idea what it took for them to get there and how many years. All we're focused on is what it looks like in front of our eyes right now, but we have no idea how long they've been working towards this goal. That's usually how it goes. Success and wealth and money and prestige and opulence and abundance, all that looks shiny and looks good and we want it. We all want our piece of it, right? But especially if you're not experienced enough in life where you haven't ever had to work extremely hard and long for something, all you just see is what it looks like right now, but it takes time to get to that point with anything that you're going to do. It's going to start with the decisions that you're making. You cannot make decisions that might put you in the hole later. I don't want to get too deep into that. That could possibly be controversial. And that could be a topic on live, perhaps, that we could discuss in the future. But I definitely think it's important to understand, like, how the choices that you're making right now as a young person specifically, how they could affect your life. Relationships, in my humble opinion, are luxuries for people who have their stuff together. That's just how I feel about it. Especially in this here and now. Relationships are a luxury for people who have it together, And I think now more than ever, it's important as early as possible to be getting your life together, figuring out exactly what it is you want to do, where it is you want to go, where you want to take it. Because obviously, for the grown folks that are here, we know the older you get, the more life goes on, the quality of life changes, like your responsibilities and your obligations, the harder it is to save money. I have an overhead. You understand me? Like I have an overhead. When you're 18, 19, 20, 20, you don't have an overhead. You got a couple bills. I feel like I'm running a business in a sense and I have a payroll. That's how I look at my life, to be honest with you. And I feel like that's preparing me as I'm looking to build entrepreneurship and I'm looking to educate myself, right? I'm becoming more business minded. I'm educating myself on financial literacy, right? Taking myself to school on that, allowing myself to be self-taught, unlearning, a lot of the things that I was taught about money or lack thereof, as I was growing up. That's the stage I am. And it's never too late to get yourself together. It's never too late to get it right. But even in the world as we know it now, you know, you kind of have an advantage when you're young because it's a lot of game out here. You know, it's a lot of people giving game out here. And you can also learn from people's mistakes. You know, you can learn, you know, from what people didn't know. You just got to be tapped in and be smart and make wise decisions. And if you do make mistakes, just make sure that they're, you know, ripples and not big waves. But I think it's a mistake. And again, I'm not telling anybody what to do. I'm not telling anybody that they're wrong. I'm not a saint. I'm not a consultant. I'm not an authority figure. I'm none of that. I'm just, you know, a grown woman, you know, giving game and just sharing my life experience. Relationships are luxuries for people who got it together, because I feel like when you focus on that when you're too young, you're not focusing on your future. And for us women specifically, I want to say, I don't think it's wrong to make love a priority per se. I don't think it's wrong to move through life with an open heart and an open mind, but you have to do so with wisdom and discernment. Be exclusive with your energy. Be protective, you know, of your access. Be careful who you give access to you and your energy, and how much access you give them. And understand that the life you're living right now may not necessarily be the life that you're living 20 years from now. I think that's one error that I could say that I made as a younger person, but you live and you learn. You know, I don't beat myself up about it, but, you know, I can say 23, 4, 5-year-old me was not thinking about 40, 45-year-old me. I wasn't. I admit it. Luckily for me, as many mistakes as I made, there were some things that were key that I actually somehow, some way, by default, I don't know, there were some things that I did great at. Like, there's some great decisions that I made. But I made a lot of mistakes too, right? So think about your future self. Life is not going to always be the way it is right now. And I think it's important when you're young and you're strong and you're able-bodied and you don't have as many ties, and before you have children and you can hustle, like, that should be your mentality, is getting ahead. Especially in the world that we're in now. Relationships come at a cost, literally. Especially, you know, for gentlemen as well, for men as well. Relationships come at a cost. Love comes at a cost. Dating comes at a cost. Children come at a cost. It's so much easier to claw and scrape in life when you only have to worry about yourself and when you're young. So if you're young, as you're trying to figure it out, go get 2 jobs. What I'll say about that though is, and I'm speaking from experience, I'm somebody who spent a lot of their adult life working 2 jobs. I don't anymore, and I haven't had to for a couple years now, and I'm grateful that I was able to make that turn and make that transition in life, but it's tough. You miss out on a lot. You have to sacrifice a lot. You know, it wears on the body, it wears on the mind. It's hard on personal relationships to live that way for an extended amount of time. But I do recommend it, you know, for a specific amount of time, just so you can get ahead. If you're 19, 20 years old, you know, you're fresh out of high school and you're not sure exactly what it is that you want to do yet, there's nothing wrong with getting yourself a couple of jobs, you know, so you can secure yourself a vehicle. You know, maybe your family can help you do that. You might have to, you know, start from the bottom and save up and get that for yourself. But transportation is of the utmost importance. I think, as far as I'm concerned, having your own transportation is more important than being in a relationship right now. It's not to say that you can't be social. It's not to say that you can't have friends. It's not to say that you can never go out and have fun, because life is about balance. But life happens on a slant. And what we're doing right now is going to have an impact on our future. So I think that that's important. So that's what I would want to say. Make wise decisions. Make wise decisions. Don't do things that are going to put you in the hole. You know? Don't make permanent decisions when the life that you're living right now is temporary. You know? Get yourself together. Figure it out. And I think the benefit of having 2 jobs is, you know, you can kind of live off one of your paychecks and you can put one away. There aren't many things in life that feels better than having money put away. They're beginning to see that money stack up. And then you can figure out if there's something that you want to invest in. You can figure out if you want to start a business. You can figure out if you want to travel abroad. Like, you can figure out what your next step is going to be. I recommend getting a trade. You may not necessarily want to go to college. I know I didn't want to. I knew that that wasn't something that I wanted to do, but it's important to have a skill. That's what I would tell you. It's important to have a skill in life. So give that some thought. What is it that you have an interest in? What is it that you like to do? You know, whatever it is, obviously you want to make a livable wage. You want it to be, you know, a competitive wage. You want it to be a trade and something that where you could travel with. You could live different places. But take that into consideration. Research unions where you live. What does it take for you to get into a union? Don't shy away from like labor related jobs, because sometimes labor related jobs pay a very good wage now, because not everybody wants to do those jobs. So don't shy away from that, especially if you're just starting out. Recycling plants, like trash disposal services, things like that. They pay good. They pay good money. But sometimes people don't want to do those jobs because they're not necessarily glamorous. But not everybody's going to be, you know, in IT. Not everybody's going to be doing something that's glamorous. Not everybody's going to be able to go into an office every day to get their money. But get a skill. That's what I do recommend. And if you're getting a skill, that will put you in a position to be able to work and go to school at the same time. It's going to be very hard for a time, but hey, it'll be worth it. It's a buddy of mine that I work with at the office. He's a supervisor there, but he's also going to school at the same time. Studying to get his A&P license so he can be an aircraft mechanic, which, again, that's one of those things, you know, once you're certified, once you graduate, you take all your classes and you get your licenses, like the sky's the limit. It's a lot of money to be made in aviation, especially in the maintenance field, because you may not necessarily always be hands-on working on aircrafts. There's a lot of, you know, positions in like maintenance control and things of that nature, maintenance planning, where you're not necessarily working on aircrafts physically anymore, but you're an advisor, you know, you're a facilitator. So that was just an example. But even just, you know, automotive mechanics, it's important to have a skill. Air conditioning, refrigeration, plumbing, again, carpentry in the union, construction, any of those things, you know, don't hesitate. Like, look into those things. Those are things that, you know, pay a livable wage. And like I said, you can also go to school at the same time in some of those fields, for sure. So you're definitely going to want to get yourself a trade. I think that's important. But in the process of you're doing that, so good, excuse me. In the process of you're doing that, you can work a couple, you know, jobs just so that you can stack up while you're putting yourself in position to be able to enroll, you know, take advantage, see if there's any grants, see if there's like apprenticeships available where you can be paid to learn a trade. I think that's important, and it's a great idea. Like, those may be opportunities that are available to you if you're looking to start out your life. But it's important to be a leader. Don't do what you see other people doing, and think about your future. Ask yourself, is what I'm doing right now going to benefit my future self? I wasn't asking myself those questions. So hold yourself accountable in that way. Again, have a good time, live your life. But I think it's important to make good decisions, to be smart, so that you're not always having to play catch up, and you're not having to spend more of your money than you should because you made a mistake, or, you know, you found yourself committed in a situation. Being social, again, is healthy, but relationships are a luxury for people who have themselves together. Luxuries for people who are already stable, already settled, especially, you know, for men. Obviously, ladies, it's, again, because of the focus that it takes and the energy that it takes, to be your healthiest and like best self for your significant other, so that you're there to make a contribution, whatever that is. It's important for you to be your best self and to be healthy. So we should have ourselves together too. This isn't just about men, because it comes at, relationships comes at a cost for us too, in a way. It may be a little different, but it just depends on the dynamic of the relationship. But I feel like we shouldn't be focused on romantic love necessarily if we don't have ourselves together. Because like I said, it takes away from our ability to like be present and to really be in that relationship, because we don't have it together. So I think that's important and something to keep in mind. So that was just a conversation that I had with a family member. We were talking about, how to get started. What's the best way? Like, because there's people who, haven't had children yet and are looking to have them, or they just had kids and they're kind of starting to come to the realization that the world is different now. Life is different now. The old school, graduate high school, go to college and get a job, get a house, get a family, get a dog. The old school way, depending on where you're from, graduate high school, get a job at the plant, work there 30 years, retire and get a pension. Like those days are over with. Those days are over with. So we have to plan for our future. And people who are doing well financially, people who are investing, people who have, real estate perhaps, or whatever the case may be, they're not necessarily as stressed, or they're not necessarily having the same experience as those of us who are not necessarily who aren't in that same position. Like they're not having the same worries and concerns. I'm not saying that being an entrepreneur or being a business owner or is like the answer to everything, but I'm saying they're probably having a different life experience than us. So it's just something to keep in mind. Definitely want you to remain hopeful. Definitely want to see people pursuing their dreams, and I definitely want to see people like at peace and being able to enjoy this life, because it is a gift. And I'm looking, to make sure that I'm keeping my head on straight and making sure that I'm in good spirits, and I'm continuing to create this content. And I just want to go deeper and deeper. I want to talk about more and more things that are on my mind. I want to share information that I think is truly going to help people, So I wanted to share that. Trade. Get a trade. You may not necessarily want to go to school. You may not necessarily, want to end up in all that debt and everything. But at the same time, depending on how you go about it, getting a trade could possibly, cost some money as well, because you may have to go to school for that, unless you can find one of those like apprenticeship programs or internships where they'll pay you to learn. But be open-minded. If you have an idea of the field you want to work in or what it is that you want to do, don't hesitate to pursue that. And I would also say this, I would want to mention this too. Don't allow yourself to be discouraged by people around you. I'm speaking from personal experience. A lot of times people don't congratulate you or don't recognize your greatness or don't see the vision until after, the success comes. Until after they see that you're doing well. After they see that this is actually like lucrative. This is actually like putting food on the table. This is whatever this is he's doing is really putting money in pockets. Like whatever this idea, whatever this thing was she's doing, it's like coming to fruition. A lot of times, like people aren't gonna see it, and that's okay. It's not for them to see. It's okay to ask questions and to want the input and the guidance from people around you, but don't expect them to always support everything that it is that you want to do, and don't feel like it's not okay for you to pursue things that you want to do just because you don't have all the support that you expected. Find a way. Ambitious people, driven people, find a way to do what it is that they want to do. And even if it doesn't take off right away, you don't quit and you don't give up. It's trial and error, But it's not to say that you won't be able to find success or you won't be able to solve the puzzle, like you won't be able to figure it out. I'm in that situation right now. I'm in a spot where this thing that I love to do, I'm working on it. I'm constantly looking to learn, you know, staying humble about it, not getting too high and not getting too low, but challenging myself and looking to push myself and do better and better. So I want to share that with you. Don't be discouraged. Be careful who you tell your dreams to. Be careful who you share your goals with. And don't expect everybody to be supportive of it. And that doesn't mean you got to stop loving them. It doesn't mean that you're upset. It doesn't mean that you're bitter about it. It's just you got to understand that sometimes, you know, people project their fears onto you. Maybe they tried something and it didn't work, so they think it's not going to work for you. Don't be discouraged by that. Just be inspired and be motivated. And I'm the type of person, I want to be the one that shows you different. If you try to tell me I can or can't do something, depending on the context and who it's coming from, I'm not going to let it discourage me. I'm going to want to be the person that proves to you that you were wrong and this does work. So believe in yourself. You know, life is hard right now. Life is heavy. I think sometimes we forget that. I think because of everything that we're doing and like all of the different things that we're responsible for, we got to be here at a certain time. This has to be taken care of. I got to go here. I got a dentist appointment. I got to get a spa. My registration is due. What are we going to have for dinner tonight? You know, kids got a recital coming up. Family coming in from out of town. Like there's always something. I got deadlines at the office. You know, I got content to edit. I got to get this content up. Like there's always something going on. And you're still supposed to maintain your sanity, have time for personal relationships, a social life, me time, worship, devotionals, you know, respectfully. Like you got to make time for all that. The gym, which I prioritize. Fitness is extremely important to me. Activity, wellness, even if it's just walking, extremely important to me to get in. But it's like, you know, it's tough. So I understand completely. Balance, making to-do lists, keeping yourself on schedule, and allowing yourself to experience that sense of accomplishment from getting the things done that you set out to do. Life is heavy. Life is tough. But I look at it like running a business. A lot of people want to be a boss. A lot of people want to run a business. A lot of people would love to know what that feels like, but that's because they see the money. But I equate, you know, running a business to the way that I live my life and run my life. I'm the CEO of my life. Like God is the owner, you know what I mean? But I handle the day to day. It's my responsibility to make sure things are getting taken care of and I'm ready to do it again the next day. So that just gives you some perspective. But I'm definitely grateful. I appreciate you taking the time. I look to do these more and more. And perhaps a time will come in the foreseeable future where we can gather together and we can do these lives and we can have real conversations and I can really just be raw, you know, and give my honest outlook. I would love to share more of my perspective, more of my ideas and my day-to-day life. I tend to be the type of person who people tend to come to me to get my perspective because they know, you know, I'm not going to discuss their personal business. People tend to feel comfortable with me. I'm not judgmental and I'm not a gossip. So I would love to be able to, you know, share my perspective. If you all have things that you want to discuss that are going on in the world, current events, love, family, life, fitness, economy, the state of the world, jobs, just different things, just the life experience overall, relationships. I would love to have those discussions here on live, and I'm grateful. I believe in you, so you be sure to do the same thing. I'm gonna continue sipping my watermelon juice. You have a great day. Until we meet again.